This lesson, we're going to talk about measure of variations. Measure of variations, we have range and standard deviations that we're going to look at. So range is going to be figuring out by the largest number minus the smallest value from the given data, and that's going to be range. Standard deviations, it's a little longer procedure, and the procedure in here, and I will show you by example. So when we're looking at the first one, they're asking you to find the range. There are 3 sets of the data. The first one, all the data is 5. Since the range, you do the largest number minus the smallest number. When they're all same, your range is going to be 0. And like you're doing 5 minus 5, right? So your range is going to be 0 if their data are all same. What about the second one, right? It starts from 0 all the way to 10. So the largest data is 10 and the smaller one is 0. So your range is 10 on that one. The third one, smallest data 4, largest data 6. So when you do 6 minus 4, that will be 2. So that's how you're going to find your range. The second one is asking you to find the standard deviations using the section B. So this is the section B. So the first thing I'm going to do is writing all the data vertically. That's going to be how many 0? 5, 0, and 5, 10. And then the next thing you wanted to find out is deviations. How do we find deviations? We're going to subtract the mean from the data to find the deviations. So in order to find the mean, we did the mean from the other sections. You're going to add all the data and divide by the number of the data, which in this case, it's going to be 5. So when you subtract mean from all the data, that's what you're going to get. And we wanted to get total of this data, and when the deviation, which is data minus the mean, most of the case your sum of the deviations is going to be 0 because half of them will be the negative and the other half is going to be positive. So when you subtract data minus mean, your sum should be 0. Where we should not be able to use that number to figure out the standard deviations. So the next thing we need to do is squaring your deviations. That way that, again, your sum is not going to be 0. So you do negative 5 squared, right? For all 5. And you do positive 5 squared for all 5. This will give you all the positive number where when you add them up, you will end up getting 250. So we need to find out that number, that's summation. And then the next thing we need to do in order to find the standard deviations, this is the notation of the standard deviations, is going to be your summation of deviation square, divide that by the number of data and square root that, which is going to be square root of 25. So your standard deviation will be 5. So when you're finding the standard deviation by hands, this is the steps you're going to go through. Find the variations, find the square of the variation so you can get number other than 0. And then you're going to divide that number with the number of the data and square root that. Okay, so example 3, let's try another one like that. This one is asking you to find range and standard deviations. So we're going to find the range. You're going to do the biggest number minus the smallest number, right? So your biggest number is going to be $3.99 minus the smallest number, $3.29, which is going to be 70 cents, right? In order to find the standard deviations, remember you need to find the mean, right? So let's do that first. The way that you're going to find mean is adding all the data. And divide that by the number of data. You will get 18.41 on the numerator, divide by 5. Your mean is going to be 3.68. So what do we do in order to find the standard deviations? I need to have all the data written first. It will be 329, 359, 379, and 375, and then you have 399. Right? And then total, which is the summations. The next thing we need to find is the deviations. How do we find deviations? Data minus mean, right? So that gives you negative 0.39, right? So data minus mean, you're going to get negative 0.09. And you have 0.11, you have 7, right? 7. And then you have 0.31. So deviations, remember I say half will be negative, half will be positive. So when you add them, it will be always 0. So in order to accumulate or work with this number, deviation value, you need to square that, right? So that you can get rid of that square later using by square roots, right? So when you square negative 0.39, this is going to give you 0.1521. When you square the second value, you get 0.0081. When you square the third one, 0.11, right? You're going to get 0.0 0.0121. 0.07 square will be 0.0049. 0.31 square will be 0.0961. When you add them up, it will be 0.2733. Again, your standard deviations is square roots of that summations of the square deviations divided by number of the data. Gives you square root of 0.05466, which is 0.234. So we have range, mean, and standard deviation.